Having a niece for about 2 years has introduced me to some things. For instance,
Bluey!
Before I even had a niece, I never heard of this show, yet it seems as if it had a pretty big fan base since its inception in 2018. Unusual for a very recent preschool show, but once I actually committed myself to it, that's when I realized it's not just any preschool show. It is a good preschool show, a very good preschool show. It's one that has a lot of appeal no matter how old you are. It's got the usual nuances that draws young kids to it, but adults are just as attached to it. I wonder why that is. Could it be the spark of innocence, the adorable cast of characters, its depiction of a modern family life, its role models for the parents? It's surprising just how much goes into what seems at first like such a simple show. Let me familiarize those who aren't familiar. The title character is a young blue heeler puppy who lives with her younger sister Bingo and their parents Bandit and Chili. Bluey has an active imagination and a great burst of energy. The episodes range from imaginary play to learning a life lesson or just exploring the great outdoors. What I enjoy about this show is that in its international releases, the Australian cultures remain intact. Most kid shows try to appeal more to the American audience when released in the States by redubbing it with American accents. Bob the Builder's done this, and so has Thomas the Tank Engine. As a result of a refusal to redub this for America, there's words like thongs, which is actually used to describe sandals, and they say chips instead of fries. But there are still some words that are altered for the American release, like capsicum turning into pepper. But if you like learning about alternate English, this show and British shows in their original audio recordings are great for that purpose. At the time I'm recording this, there are 141 episodes total. After seeing through all the Bluey episodes possible, I think it would be fun for me to talk about my 30 favorites. Keep in mind, this is all my personal opinion. Everyone has their own thoughts on the show and what their favorite episodes are. So now that I've given my preface, let's go over my top 30 Bluey episodes. But first, some honorable mentions. Bike. Doing things right the first time is not easy, but there's always hope.
Oh, go. That's disgusting.
Ragdoll. Bandit's got a great argument. You really should work to get your rewards.
Promise me you'll work hard to maintain a strong core, girls. Don't get lazy.
Yes, Wendy, we won't.
Smoochie Kiss. Oh, Bandit, you never fail to impress us with just how hilarious you can be, especially when you're flawed.
Why are you hopping?
I peed on my foot.
Unicorse. I'm just laughing at this puppet, one of the funniest things to come out of Season 3.
What are we reading? Guilty! Make shoes! Oh, I wish I could read. Ah, yay! I feel so good at dance. And what should I get?
Unicorns, what's your favorite food?
Children.
Oh.
Shadowlands. Isn't it fun to follow the rules? Of course it is. This episode shows us why.
You can't change the rules, Coco. Why not? Because they're the rules.
The Creek. Just a great episode to showcase the characters exploring the great outdoors.
The creek is beautiful. I did it.
Yeah, you made it, Squirt.
The Quiet Game. I just love Alfie. He's easily one of my favorite guest characters.
Look, Alfie, you'll understand one day. Can you help me?
Yes, I can help you.
Copycat. There's not really that many preschool shows daring enough to tackle the subject of death. Here comes Bluey to pick up the slack.
It's bad news, I'm afraid. The little budgie died.
Oh, okay.
Born yesterday. Just imagine being born yesterday and already knowing how to talk and walk. But everything else? Boy, there's a lot to learn.
Oh, swing! This is...
Granddad. Don't you just feel young even though you're the complete opposite? Well, Chili's father does. Too bad Chili doesn't agree. Number 30, Double Babysitter. Mom and Dad are going out for the night, and apparently they each called a different sitter. Bandit called his older brother Rad, and Chili called Bluey's godmother Frisky. These are both sitters that the kids are unfamiliar with, so they organize some games so they can know each other better.
How many friends have you got?
Oh, 3?
That's not many. Why have you only got 3 friends?
Well,
And at the same time, the sitters develop a romantic relationship. This connection is what makes the episode worth it. It's hard to imagine what other story has a connection quite like this. It's just a great way to introduce them to the show. It's also got a brilliant message. If you're so apprehensive about something, it's unlikely you're going to see the results, good or bad, if you don't give in to curiosity. The dynamic there works too perfectly for the message to not work. This can definitely pass for encouragement to give new babysitters a chance. Number 29, Tradies. Two tradespeople, or maybe I should say trades dogs, stop by the house to install a fish pond. While they do, Bluey and Bingo spy on them. They even become invested in their personal lives, especially the younger one, Chippy, who's been slacking off at times, and then there's the boss, Sparky, who's been yelling at him for it. Though off screen, he did say some dirty words.
Then Big Belt called chocolate milk that word Dad said when the mower didn't start.
Oh dear.
But nonetheless, the girls and Chili form a bond with the tradies over their 3 days of work. This episode is great because it goes to show that those you consider your enemies can become your friends once you know them better. It's especially neat to see the fish pool done, and even see Chippy fixing his relationship with his girlfriend Cherry. I still can't get over the nicknames Chocolate Milk and Big Belt. I just want to use those names instead of the real ones. Number 28, Road Trip. Before you ask, no, we're not there yet. Basically, a family road trip. But Bluey feels bored during the trip because she and Bingo don't have access to the tablets to play computer games, so Chili has to try and keep them entertained.
But there's no barrels to jump.
Yeah, but you can jump cows!
Oh yeah! 1 point. 2 points.
3 points!
Hey, you can't play, you're driving.
Oh, yeah!
But also during this time, Bandit's at the wheel trying to stay ahead of the Grey Nomads. For those who don't know, and yeah, I had to look it up, Grey Nomads is an Australian slang term for retired people who travel by RV. Like what Bluey herself soon discovers, the viewer appreciates all the small things in life pass by as the road trip goes on. It's a whole world out there that no computer game can truly capture, so next time you're bored, think of all the wonders of nature. There's a lot you really shouldn't be missing out on, whether you take a drive or a jog or travel at all. There's always something. I hope sometime soon there's an episode about traveling by plane, because this could be another way to appreciate the wonders, and quite relatable for me personally, since I do this a lot. Number 27, Housework. Mom and Dad are supposed to be doing housework as Bluey and Bingo tidy up their toys, but the kids, while doing their job, never do a normal walk.
Sheets! Oh, sheets!
Okay, that's not even close to her normal walk.
Okay, this wouldn't be a big deal, except they're constantly changing it up, and Bandit's just trying to make sense of it. Even trying one of those funny walks on his own. Even Chili gets in on it. It's not enough just for the kids to do the silly walks, the parents have to try to figure it out. That's what makes an absolutely brilliant episode. It's worth mentioning that the Disney version, for some unknown reason, cuts out not just a single line, but a whole scene.
Oh, yeah, while spinning. Ow! My groin! That's funny, is it?
A little.
Well, come on, you try it.
I can understand the bit of Bandit saying, "Ow, my groin!" But they could have just altered the line. They didn't have to cut out the part where Chili tries the funny walk for the first time. The scene was just fine the way it was. Very little fixing required. Just keep the scene in, and there you go. 27th spot on the list. Number 26, Sheepdog. It's pretty much while Chili needs some alone time, Bandit has to play with the kids and keep them away from Mum. But that also means pretending to be a sheep. And yeah, he has a mullet. One hilarious moment is that he's still pretending to be a sheep when this energy insurance guy stops at the front door.
Hi, how would you like to save $200 a year on your energy bill?
Meh.
Excuse me?
Meh.
But anyway, it becomes hard work to take care of Sheep Bandit, much like how it's hard work for Chili to raise her family. That bit becomes a lot more clear when Wendy enters the picture.
I think she wishes she didn't have children.
That is not true, my love. Why don't you kids go upstairs and play with Judo? I'll look after your sheep for you.
Taking care of children or pets really is a challenge. That's why we need breaks every now and then. Just brief moments when you don't have to deal with a lack of cooperation. You wouldn't expect the message in this episode to get across exactly the way it's meant to with kids, but it worked on Bluey, so it's a pretty safe bet that it may work with the kids watching the show.
Sometimes mums just need 20 minutes.
I don't understand.
You will one day, sweetheart.
Number 25, Curry Quest. This is a basic summary of a hero's journey. A simple life at first, then a call to adventure, the perils ahead, then a sudden twist to the journey, but the quest can be completed when you come to terms with this twist. It just so happens that this particular quest is just Bandit and Bingo visiting the border collies for a curry swap, and as they go, Chili is explaining the different elements of the quest to Bluey. And yeah, it really does feel like a quest. Doesn't look much like Lord of the Rings or other quest movies, but it's still amazing nonetheless. If you want to teach your kids about the steps of a hero's journey commonly used in stories, this is how you do it, watching this episode. Number 24, Omelette. Bandit's the birthday dad, and he's expecting a good breakfast. So, Chili decides she wants to make him an omelet. Bingo offers to help, but...
Oh my goodness! Sorry, Bluey. It's okay, I'll clean it up.
Will breakfast be in my mouth soon?
It's on its way. I'm just letting Bingo help me.
I don't want to complain, but
Sorry!
Was that my breakfast?
Yeah, Bandit gets cranky when he's hungry, but this certainly isn't going quick. It's just super hilarious watching the eggs crack, mostly from Bingo smacking them too hard to the silver bowl. But it's also very heartwarming watching her making the omelet right once given the chance at last. What could go wrong if even a few eggshells end up in the mixture? Number 23, Piggyback. Another episode about appreciating nature as you go. In this one, the family is taking a walk by the riverside, but Bingo keeps complaining that her feet are getting tired. So the parents keep finding ways to motivate her to keep going. It's just amazing how long she is able to keep going even after numerous times she's complained, and it really helps you realize that all she really needed was motivation. There's always something to keep you going when your head's being a real downer, and that is the essence of all life. Number 22, Daddy Put Down. In this one, Chili has to attend a baby shower, leaving Bandit to do the job of putting the kids to bed for the evening. But it's pretty hard because while Mom's away, the kids would time and time again miss her, even when Dad is playing a fun game with them.
I miss Mom.
You really feel for Bluey in particular because she cares a lot for her mom and wanted her to stay. It makes her sad anytime she's going to be away for a long time. She's worried that if Mom kisses her goodnight while she's already asleep, she's not going to feel it. But I love the way she soon copes with it. She sets up a baby shower of her own, even recapturing the experience of her mother having to tell her kid that she's off to the baby shower. What a wholehearted episode in pretty much every meaning of the word. Number 21, Promises. I absolutely love this one. It's pretty much the idea of building trust with promises. It starts off when Bluey doesn't keep her promise to clean up a puzzle she was about to start, and then Bandit was unable to keep his promise to take the kids to the library after some time in the trampoline park. Though to be fair, it was kind of contributed to by Bluey and Bingo spending way more time than needed. Then a new rule is established that any time someone makes a promise, they absolutely have to keep it. But then Bandit uses this to trick Bluey into carrying a heavy load of books in her book bag.
Here they are. Ha! Ha!
Yeah, you can really see where we're going here. Basically, don't use promises to trick others. The idea of promises is to build trust, and you can't do that if the promise calls for something beyond outrageous for that person's standards. And it's just absolutely wonderful to see the agreements being upheld, isn't it?
I promise I'll always love you.
Number 20, Easter. This was the finale for Season 2, and a great episode to close on. The kids are worried that the Easter Bunny might forget to bring them Easter eggs just like he did last year. Then on Easter morning, they awaken and find a series of clues that lead them around the house on a treasure hunt in order to find the eggs the Easter Bunny brought. And it's always been great to see Bluey and Bingo interacting with each other in their little adventures, and it's taken up a notch in this episode. Sure, they get themselves into antics from time to time, but they also work very well together if necessary. This episode is proof of that. Just a reminder what a great show we have. Number 19, Bingo. This is the only episode of the show to have a unique intro. It starts off normal until the tables turn and whoa, the winner of this game of musical statues is Bingo instead of Bluey. Yeah.
Bingo!
The Bingo title is not only in the intro, but it's the title card. So we see the title of the episode twice. We see Bluey and Bingo together a lot. We even see Bluey solo sometimes. Well, maybe not solo, but definitely with other friends. But this time, when Bluey's going to Chloe's house, the focus is on Bingo. With Bluey away, she needs to find a way to play by herself. So first, she tries to find a suitable game that she can play on her own, but is struggling to do so.
Why are you hiding? I'm playing hide and seek.
Right. Who's coming to find you?
Oh.
Then Chili gives her some advice. Find a problem that needs solving. In this case, Bingo tries figuring out the color of a kiwi with a world map puzzle. She's missing a piece. It's just one of the most hilarious things and also one of the most informative. If you're not sure what to do on your own, try looking for a problem to solve in order to entertain yourself. It's also the perfect excuse to give Bingo the spotlight for some time. She's so dang cute.
Oh, little auntie. You're trying to carry that food all by yourself. Well, keep going, little fella.
Number 18, The Beach. In the first half of Season 1, this is the last episode, and they didn't mess around with this one. On a trip to the beach, Chili goes out for a walk by herself. She's not really sure why she enjoys walking by herself, but she does so anyway. Then Bluey decides she wants to join her, and follows her mother's footsteps in the sand. It's funny how distinct paw prints are left even though the bottom of their feet never have that kind of detail. But no matter, she enjoys the sights as she goes, and even tries to be brave throughout.
Well, then.
I love when there's episodes about seeing the pretty sights to appreciate because there's always going to be many different ways to do so. You just have to be brave enough to try to sidestep past the pelican that stands in your way.
Thanks for moving, Mr. Pelican.
It's also heartwarming to see Bluey catch up with her mother. The whole experience is just wonderful. The music, the visuals, the progression, pretty much everything about it is brilliant. Number 17, Fairy Tale. Back in the 80s, people had crazy haircuts, you listened to music on cassette tapes, and the colors you saw were aplenty. And during that time, Bandit was about 10 years old, spending a holiday with his brothers and often teasing Stripe. But then Rad jinxes him, meaning he's unable to speak a word until someone else says his name. And boy is this jinx cruel. Bandit's brothers use this to either inconvenience him or get him into trouble.
Who ate all the mini cereals? He did! Right, Blue, get over here!
In the 80s, regards for well-being were non-existent towards those who were jinxed. When Bandit is told he should have been nicer to Stripe, he does try to fix his relationship with his brother by helping him in a field of prickles. Well, Stripe does give his thanks, but doesn't free him.
Thanks, Dina. Haha.
Hey, kids have always been cruel. The spell was only broken when a princess stopped by, and that princess was Chili. Well, Chili doesn't seem to recall that kind of experience, but whether or not it really was Chili who broke the curse, it doesn't really matter. I'm not gonna nerd out, but I love the 80s. Seeing a story told during a time like that sells it for me. It's also amazing seeing Bandit as a child and how he was back in the day. It's especially heartwarming at the end, too.
Here you go. Thanks. See you later. Yeah. See you later.
I can't fight this feeling anymore. Number 16, Perfect. This episode originally premiered on September 5th, 2021 in Australia, because that's the first Sunday of September, and in Australia, that's Father's Day. Bluey's trying to make a card for her dad, but she wants to make sure it looks perfect, as she remembers all the fun activities with her dad. Sounds to me like we already have an aspiring artist prodigy on our hands.
I'm not very perfect at drawing big couches. It looks great. Yeah, it doesn't look like our couch. It looks more like a chair.
But as we soon gather, even for the greatest artists of all time, obtaining perfection is never going to be easy. This message is especially relevant when you think about the show itself. I may love the show, but not every episode is great.
It's Dad!
Some of my least favorites include Dad Baby, Blue Mountains, Stumpfest, Mr. Monkey Jocks, and Obstacle Course. I'm not sure I'll be able to get over what Bandit did in Obstacle Course.
What was that?
But maybe I should. The only perfection anyone can obtain anyway is the best that they themselves can do. Number 15, Handstand. For the most part, Bluey doesn't follow a lot of continuity, maybe some references here and there, but overall very episodic. There are some episodes, however, that can easily be considered follow-ups to other episodes, airing the day immediately following the previous episode. Handstand, for example, is a direct sequel to Duck Cake. At Bingo's own birthday party, she's trying to do a handstand, even getting someone to notice what she's doing, but everyone's too busy with something else to focus by the time she can actually pull it off. As far as setting up the party itself, Nana's offering to help, but everyone says they don't need the help. What I enjoy about this episode is that in both of these cases, not only is the shot situated in the same place for about 2 minutes as everything happens, but there's so much going on, and as hard as it may seem, you can still stay focused on the thing you're supposed to be focusing on. Don't worry, Bingo, I saw your handstand, and Nana, if you want to help, I'm open to it. Eventually, Nana gets to see Bingo do her handstand, and even more funny, they're so focused on that, they don't pay mind when Chili calls for Bingo when the cake is brought out. How'd you like that? Number 14, Squash. Basically, competition between the older sibling and the younger sibling. Bandit and his younger brother Stripe play a game of squash. Well, to be more specific, they pretend they are controlled by Bluey and Bingo respectively, using their racket cases as if they were video game controllers. It's amazing how they seem to be following almost the exact movements the controller inputs dictate, even if for the most part they're facing away from the kids. But even more amazing is the message. Even if you're the older sibling, that doesn't automatically mean you're going to be the dominance. It's also hilarious watching them slam into walls, sweat, and even stumble around. Imagine seeing a situation like this in real life. 2 adults playing a game of squash being controlled by 2 kids with their own racket cases. This is just great fun. I just hope the janitor is going to have a fun time cleaning up all the sweat from the glass. Number 13, Pass the Parcel. Lucky's dad, named Pat, has been a recurring character in most of the show's episodes, usually appearing as a comedic foil.
Oh, well, I guess that's enough.
In this episode, he hosts a birthday party, and there's even a game of Pass the Parcel, where when the music stops, the one with the parcel opens a layer and gets a prize inside. Hey, wait a minute, that's not how Pat remembers the game working. It's just one prize right in the middle of the layers. So, instead of adjusting to the times, Pat introduces the way he played Pass the Parcel anytime he takes part in the birthday party. At first, the kids are very distraught about not earning a prize for unraveling a layer, but soon learn that the suspense of unraveling the layers of the parcel was what added to the fun of the game.
I'm sorry you didn't win Pass the Parcel, Bingo.
It's okay, I don't mind.
Really?
Yeah, when Lila is happy, I'm happy.
Some parents take a bit of issue with how Pat appeared to be asserting dominance over how such a simple party game should work.
Jasper has asked that we play Pass the Parcel by Lucky's dad's rules.
They're not my rules!
But to me, after comparing the two, only having one prize in the middle of all the layers actually did sound more fun. If you just put a prize for every layer, you're already expecting to get something. If there's one prize in the middle, you never know for sure. Think about it any way you want. But I really don't think our kids should think they can just always have rewards. The rules may be debated, but the message remains unchanged. Number 12, The Adventure. Imaginary play takes on many forms. This one is like a cinematic adventure. Seriously, the ratio shrinks into a wider screen for most of the episode. Bluey and Chloe take on an imaginary adventure that tells the story of a princess who must bring back food for the kingdom to prosper, but during the journey must also defeat an evil witch. Fairly standard, run-of-the-mill fantasy plot, but for the children's imagination, it works brilliantly because there really are a great deal of us who had this sort of imagination running. Every now and then, Bluey and Chloe would swap roles as the princess and her horse, even the personas for the witch and other characters if need be, though other kids sometimes tend to join in on the fun, like the terriers for example, with their armpit farts. Tell me you didn't do that at one point in your childhood. What a wonderful episode. It's just the type we need for our imaginary adventure figs on this show. It's a blessing. Number 11, Flat Pack. Bandit and Chili are trying to put a flat pack garden chair together. As they go, they're throwing the boxes and packaging in the backyard for their kids to use. They use this packaging to roleplay evolution, as different creatures navigate the new world around them. Even back to the cave dogs. This would be a good time to bring up the fact that this episode, along with the Season 1 episode teasing, attracted controversy for use of a specific phrase considered derogatory toward Indigenous Australians. But in the context of the episodes, it was just random nonsense the kids were spitting out. Regardless, the line in both episodes were changed.
More honey, please, Shooby-Doo-Wah.
My name's not Chibi-Doo-Wah.
In the end, it hardly mattered because as the flat pack became more complete after so much struggle and the evolution game has come to a close, it becomes a nice, relaxing rest on the garden chair, reflecting on the fun we had watching some magic unfold. Number 10, Fruit Bat. What an absolute beauty this one is. The day is done and Bluey doesn't want to go to sleep. She even learns that fruit bats are nocturnal creatures that get to stay up all night. This makes Bluey wish she herself was a fruit bat. But have no worries because in the dream world, you can be anything and well, the rest is history. Bluey, though her physical appearance is unchanged, has become a fruit bat. That whole dream sequence is just brilliant. What really makes it work is the music, a perfectly fitting magical track for an equally fitting magical moment. It leaves me with a good feeling, especially the scene with Bandit playing touch football and scoring a try, which is something he doesn't get to do anymore because he has a family to raise. Well, if you can't do it, dream it.
Wow.
Number 9, Bob Bilby. This takes me back to 2nd grade when our class would have a similar event on a weekly basis. Bingo gets to take the kindergarten class puppet Bob Bilby home for the weekend. The whole idea is to take photos of the family and Bob Bilby engaging in activities for the scrapbook, but they spend a bit too much time on technology, which doesn't look very exciting once you put them all together. So how about something much more active?
Are you ready, Bob?
Woo.
I love that gag, by the way, with a photo snapped of Chili. This goes out as a reminder to families that they should spend less time with technology and more time with the real activities, especially if you got someone stopping by for a visit. Number 8, bedroom. You ever get that feeling when you once had a nursery for your baby and then they grow up and sleep in their own room? That's how Chili's been feeling stepping into that old nursery, which she first thought of just turning into a spare room until Bluey suggested she could have it be her own room. For the new bedroom, Bluey and Bingo divide their belongings between the two, and the trade even continues at bedtime.
What's going on?
It's okay, Bingo said I could have them.
It's bedtime, kids. Come on. You should have done this earlier.
They even exchange notes. Yeah, it can be hard getting used to having a new room in the same house. I've had that happen a few times myself. As you've probably noticed, a lot of the entries on this list are a result of a sort of relatability factor. It may not be to the same extent as it is when Bluey and Bingo start to miss each other and they get to share the same room again, but it was certainly there. Number 7, Rug Island. Just like the show as a whole, this episode reminded me just how much I miss my childhood. The kids set up the fictional Rug Island in the backyard, using felt-tip pens to represent different objects, and adults are not allowed. But Bandit gets washed up on the island, and while he's not quite accepted at first,
Let's eat him!
Ow! Get off!
No! Don't worry, we're friendly. I'm not.
Ow!
Bandit starts to adjust to the island's customs and reawakens his inner child. This is the perfect reminder for parents to remember that they had their childhood and now they pass it on to their own seed, and childhood never truly goes away. Who better to remind him of this fact than his own kids? The reason childhood never truly goes away is because your kids will always find a way to give it back.
What did she give you?
Everything.
Number 6, onesies. From time to time, Bluey deals with complex subjects. This one deals with sterility, though never directly brought up. Chili's sister Brandy stops by to visit after having not seen her for 4 years, and gives Bluey and Bingo zebra and cheetah onesies. But when Bingo wears the cheetah, she begins acting like a wild cheetah. But the visit is making Brandy emotional because it reminds her of something she really wants but is never able to have.
Why can't she just have the thing she wants?
Because it's not meant to be.
The kids watching are not exactly likely to understand it fully, but the adults can certainly grasp that Brandy is unable to have kids. That's a daring subject for a kids show to tackle. I think it's more daring than the concept of death in the episode Copycat, but it was handled in a way that kids can understand the episode one way and adults can understand it for what it truly presented. With the standards Bluey's been setting for preschool shows lately, it makes you wonder if there will soon be other preschool shows that would follow in Bluey's wake. Unfortunately, that doesn't seem very likely. Number 5, the pool. You really want to do something fun, but in order for that to happen, you gotta do something boring? That's life for you, and this episode best represents this when Uncle Stripe gives permission for Bandit and his family to go swimming in his pool. The trouble is, Bandit and the kids don't bring the important stuff, like floaties and sunscreen. That makes it hard to really enjoy their time at the pool, especially once the shade starts to cover less of the pool, meaning Bingo gets less space to stay away from the creepy pool cleaner.
I'm never getting out of this.
But all's well once Chili shows up with the important things. Finally, we can have some fun. This can easily be seen as the great summer fun, even if the first 26 episodes of the show were released in October, which really doesn't matter much in the grand scheme of things. Australia's got a warm climate, so sunscreen is definitely a necessity for swimming, regardless of the season. The message, the animation, and even the score are what rank this episode among my top 5 in this list. Absolutely beautiful. Number 4, camping. When the Healer family are on a camping trip, Bluey makes friends with Jean-Luc, who only speaks French.
Hi.
Tu veux jouer avec moi? Huh? Est-ce qu'on joue ensemble?
Bluey doesn't understand the language, but regardless, they bond pretty much perfectly. They build a campsite and even plant seeds for a tree, and they defend it from Bandit, who acts like a wild pig. But to capture the pig, Bluey and Jean-Luc have to find a way to communicate with each other. It's a lot of fun for the two, until eventually Jean-Luc and his family have to leave.
Oh, yes, I saw them packing up.
What?
They must have left early this morning.
You mean they're gone?
I'm afraid so, sweetheart.
It's very sad when your friends have to leave when you've only known them for a short period of time, but during that short period of time was the happy part of the whole trip. No matter what happens after the fact, it's always good to remember just how fun it was while it lasted. Who knows, you may even see that friend again someday, maybe in your adulthood instead of your childhood, and the memories just flood back.
Hello, Bluey.
Even if this friendship starts anew once more, it's like you've known them for years. This episode, like the rest of the show, will probably have that feeling for me. Number 3, Baby Race. Ever since Judo was introduced in Season 1, it's easy to see her as a selfish and unkind character. At times she can be, especially in the episode Butterflies. But let's also think about back when she and Bluey were babies. Chili's recounting those experiences when Judo was taking her first steps. Raising Bluey, Chili wanted to beat Judo in the baby race, but it seemed like they were getting stuck at the crawling step.
Oh, how good is crawling? It's better than rolling.
Ow! My knees!
Chili wasn't quite the rush to get it done until Judo won the baby race, and Chili realizes she needs to let the steps develop at their own pace. There's really no need for competition when raising your children. The development was never going to be easy to begin with, so why rush? Who knows? Maybe during those moments when you're not teaching them about walking, it could be the moment when your child will take her first steps. Nothing could be more tear-jerking than that.
Why did I decide to walk in the kitchen?
I don't know, sweetie.
Maybe you just saw something you wanted.
Number 2, Rain. One of my favorite things about Bluey is how many episodes really stand out from each other. This episode in particular tells its story more on a visual level rather than using dialogue or sound effects. You'd understand it quite quickly just by looking at it. On a rainy day, Bluey is fascinated by the flow of the water down the footpath and how it can be manipulated by a blockade, so she tries to make a dam to stop the flow from reaching the street. This feels a lot like a silent film from the early 20th century, in that for the most part, the only sound you ever hear throughout is the musical score. You do hear the sound of rainfall and thunder at one point, but that's about the most audio you'd get aside from the beautiful score. This style of storytelling for film and TV fascinates me, and if I make reference to the old silent films of the early 20th century, that's because it's the first thing that comes to mind. Though it can also mean that in an era where film and TV have gone in a completely different direction than from when they first debuted, there are studios out there that haven't forgotten those old traditional storytelling values that age like fine wine, and no matter the color display, whether in color or black and white, it shines just as brightly as a double rainbow after the storm. Number 1, Sleepy Time. I don't think many of you are surprised to see this at the top spot. This has often been considered one of the best episodes of the show, and for good reason. It seems simple enough. Bingo wants to be able to wake up in her own bed after a long night's sleep. But as she's having a dream of exploring the many planets in the solar system, in the real world she's sleepwalking and even ends up in her parents' bed. It's got its sense of humor in there like the other episodes. I especially love when Bingo cannonballs in that red splotch on Jupiter, and in the real world, it's Bandit's very own splotch.
Biscuits.
But the dream itself is a story, one of Bingo's separation anxieties. At first, she's exploring the galaxy with her stuffed bunny named Floppy, but suddenly the two separate, making her sad. But then she's talking to the sun, which is actually her mother.
I have to go. I'm a big girl now.
Remember, I'll always be here for you, even if you can't see me. Because I love you.
The whole thing is an emotional experience that makes not just the episode, but the show as a whole just feel so complete. It's the sort of thing we should be seeing more often in children's entertainment. There's a lot to analyze in the episode itself, like the separation anxieties as mentioned earlier, but for the moment, we'll just leave it at a statement most of us can agree on. It is beyond a doubt not only the best episode of the show, but one of the best episodes to any children's TV show in recent years. But remember, this is just my personal opinion. Which episodes would you rank as your favorites? Feel free to let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.